Great. Again, welcome everybody. We probably will have some more folks join us, but this is a Catalyst and COA sort of combined financial aid night. We anticipate most of the folks on here will be seniors and their parents or guardians who are anticipating what to do next year. We've got a handful of panelists and guests with us tonight that you'll hear from. And so I want to do a quick introduction just so you can associate voices and faces with names. I'm Josh Reed. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I work with Christy Chrisman.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christy, she, her.
And we also work really closely with Ben Shannon, who is a George Fox intern working at the Catalyst. He does way more than a typical intern. We're really grateful to have him here tonight too.
Hi, everyone.
Looks like Tim Graham, our faithful leader, stepped out for a second, but Sandy Otis is also here. She's a coordinator for COA. You probably all work with her.
Hi, glad you're here, and I hope you get a lot of information tonight. Thanks for joining us.
And then we have two special guests, and really, if we're honest, like they're the reason we're here. They're the experts who will be answering a lot of your questions toward the end of our time together. But I want to introduce Magdalena Cruz from PCC. She's the admissions and recruitment coordinator.
Good evening, everybody. I'm happy to be here.
And Brennan Rains, who's a financial aid counselor at George Fox University.
Hi, everybody. Good evening.
Thank you both for being with us. And just for those of you who kind of like to know what we're doing and where we're headed, and so you can know that some things are what's coming up, here's sort of a brief agenda. I'd like to give a brief overview of a resource that we want to share with you. Then I'm going to hand it over to Magdalena, who will talk about the Oregon Promise and things that are specific to community college if you're interested in that path. Brennan will talk about paying for private university, and he may be referring to George Fox because that's where he's from, but I'm sure there'll be information that will be pertinent for you no matter what private university you might be interested in. Ben Shannon will share a few tips that he's picked up along the way. Christy will sort of wrap up things that we may have forgotten, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. You may notice if you're used to using Zoom that there's a Q&A button that should be on the bottom of your screen, and you can submit questions throughout our time together. It should be about 25-30 minutes for the first half, and feel free to pop a question in there as you're thinking about it, and we won't address it right in the moment, but we'll come back to it at the second half and hopefully answer everyone's questions. There's no way for you to sort of voice your question, so typing them into the question box will be the best way to do that. All right, I'd like to share a resource with you, and I'm gonna copy this and put it in the, if I can find my way here. Ah! Thought I knew what I was doing. There we go. I'm gonna, in the chat box, put a link to this document, and feel free to click that and open it up in your own, on your own computer. But I'll walk you through it here. This is just somewhat of a checklist for a variety of career pathways, educational pathways. Starting at the top, if you are pursuing a career that might require a 4-year bachelor's degree, this is a checklist that started back in September and kind of works you month by month through your senior year. With COVID, a lot of deadlines are adjusted. Some things are even canceled, like or modified, like the SAT and ACT tests. But you might go back to September and see if you've been on track. Then if you are pursuing community college education, a 2-year associate's degree, or maybe a trade school or apprenticeship, the Oregon community colleges are great places to do those things as well. Or some of you might actually already be taking classes at PCC. Here's a checklist for you. If you're interested in the trades, Oregon has a variety of great places that cover dozens and dozens of different trades. There's a checklist for if you're planning on just kind of entering the workforce and you want some tips on how to go about that and feel confident going into an interview for a job, or even pursuing the job that most interests you. There's a checklist for you. If you're kind of unsure, then the next page, exploring post-secondary options, might be a good place to start. And there's a variety of live links on here where you can compare colleges and universities from one another, sometimes side by side, but others. I love this niche website that is almost like a Facebook profile for different colleges and universities, and gives it grades, and some students who attend there even give reviews. With COVID, virtual visits is a great option this year, and either UVisit or campus tours, there's live links there for a variety of tours that you can take without even leaving your home. Again, you can explore a variety of trade school and apprenticeships throughout Oregon. And here's links to the military, if that's an option that you're considering. And then, like I said, SAT and ACT, the plans are a little bit different. So before you get all anxious about it, or spend months and months preparing, you might check out if the colleges that you're planning on attending are even going to ask you for SAT scores this year. And then lastly, the financial aid links. And this is a variety of great links that, with databases of scholarships, some of them are local, some of them are statewide, some of them are national. And usually, others might disagree with this, but I think your always best bet is to apply for the local ones and maybe the statewide ones. The national ones, you might be competing with thousands and thousands of people, but Ben's going to talk about some ideas he has to make that worth your time. But I specifically want to draw your attention to a couple things. FAFSA, you might have noticed that was sort of at the top of the list for several of the checklists. Any school you go to, if you're going to apply for financial aid, that's step one. And it's a free application for federal student aid. That's what FAFSA stands for. And that gives the school or university information to help them decide what your needs are and what you would qualify for. If you are an undocumented American or a DACA student, ORSA, Oregon Student Aid application might be a good bet. So basically, if you do not have a social security number, and if you are not a US citizen, but you have been living in Oregon for the last 12 months or longer, then ORSA basically would take the place of FAFSA for you. And the other thing I want to draw your attention to is local scholarships. This is a Google document with dozens and dozens of scholarships, from Rotary to equestrian to pretty much anything in Newburgh where people have an interest and they've created a scholarship for students who want to pursue that, whether it's nursing or horticulture, there's scholarships for you. So I would encourage you to check that out. Some of the deadlines are fast approaching, and some of the deadlines aren't until late next spring. So be careful to check those as well. I think that's it. I'll put the link in the chat again, just in case you just joined us. I'm not sure if you can see the chat, what was in the chat before you arrived, but let me hand it over to Magdalena.
All right. Great. Thank you. All right, so I will go ahead and share my screen here. All right, so I hope you can all see my screen. Again, good evening. My name is Magdalena Cruz. I'm the Admissions and Recruitment Coordinator at PCC. And I'm here today to share some information about Oregon Promise, which is a grant specific to community colleges, as well as some general information about PCC that really can also apply. I'll talk about community colleges in general, since there's a lot of common types of information. So my first couple slides kind of focus on some academic programs and then leading into the Oregon Promise information. And I also have some scholarship information as well. So at PCC and many community colleges offer 2-year degree programs. They're called associate's degrees. And there are different paths that students can take with an associate's degree. One options that students may choose is a university transfer degree option, which is essentially for students that are planning to eventually get a bachelor's degree, or their end goal, long-term goal is to get a bachelor's degree. And then you can start completing the first and second year requirements for a bachelor's degree at a community college and earn a university transfer degree. And then continue for the remaining 2 years at a university of your choice, and you can earn a bachelor's degree. So many students start at a community college and then continue on to a 4-year university to earn their degree. There are many advantages to many students choosing that option. And one big one is affordability, which for community colleges, the tuition tends to be lower than what you would pay at a 4-year university. So that can be a great way for students that are maybe facing a financial barrier for going to college or earning a bachelor's degree to save a lot of money during those first 2 years and still earn their university degree from the university of their choice. So we offer many different types of university transfer options. Another option for students that are maybe not looking into a bachelor's degree, kind of long-term degree programs, we do offer quite a few different 2-year degree programs, as well as 1-year certificate programs that are designed to really prepare you for a specific career. So those are more hands-on training type of programs that again prepare you for a career in as little as 1 year or 2 years, because there are many different careers out there that may not require a bachelor's degree that are still great paying jobs. So that's another option. And then we also, have a lot of support services and a lot of resources that can help you explore different options for those students that are still undecided. You don't have to know exactly what you want to study when you apply to a community college. You can, make that decision later and use some of the resources that we have available to help with that. Here are some of the, here's a list of the university transfer areas of study that we offer. And again, many community colleges offer similar programs. So you'll see many common type of majors that, again, you can start at a community college. And then here are examples of our career technical degree programs. So these are, again, those hands-on training that are meant to prepare you for a career to basically go and get a job in that specific field after you graduate with a certificate or a 2-year program. So you'll see, a lot of healthcare programs are part of that. We have a lot of like apprenticeship and trades kind of fall into that area as well. So depending kind of what your career plan is, you would choose one of these areas of study. And just PCC specifically, we do have different locations in the Portland area. If you haven't visited our campuses, well, we're closed right now, so we don't offer any tours, but normally we do have tours available, and hopefully we will have tours soon. So by the time that you start, if you are seniors looking to apply for this next fall term, hopefully you will, by then we'll be back on our campuses, and we can't wait to get back to normal, as I'm sure everybody does. We also have free shuttle buses that make transportation easy between the different campuses, so it makes it really convenient. And we also offer a lot of online classes, regardless of whether or not, regard of the current situation. And we also have a center in Newburgh. So I know that you guys are out there in that area in Newburgh, so even more convenient location for many classes being offered at our Newburgh Center as well. All right, so moving on to paying for college. So I think Josh had mentioned many of these in your checklist. I love the checklist that you have created. So I will focus specifically on the Oregon Promise and a couple scholarships, including the PCC specific scholarship. So the Oregon Promise Grant is a grant through the state of Oregon that is specifically for students that are planning to enroll at a community college. So there are requirements in order to qualify or to be eligible for Oregon Promise Grant is completion of a high school diploma or GED, 2.5 or higher cumulative GPA at the time of graduation. So again, if you are at the beginning of your senior year right now, this is the GPA that is taken, that is looked at the end of your senior year. So if you are right around that 2.5, make sure you maintain it, or if you're really close to it, you still have time to get your GPA up to that point. You have to enroll at a community college within 6 months of graduating from high school or earning your GED. So for many students graduating in June, they would have to start in the fall term in September. And you have to be an Oregon resident for at least 12 months, which, that is the case for many students that are currently in Oregon. So those 4 requirements need to be met. In some years, and we are not sure what's going to happen this coming year, there have been some restrictions as far as the expected family contribution. So looking at some, income information and the EFC, which you can see the note at the bottom of the slide here, the EFC criteria. So these are subject to change. There have been some years where there was no restriction on that. So that as long as students were graduated from high school, had a 2.5 GPA, were Oregon residents and enrolled within 6 months of graduation, they would receive the Oregon Promise Grant. In other times, other years, there was some students may not qualify depending on what that EFC is. And I believe at this last year for the class of 2020, that was set at 22,000. The EFC was set at 22,000. I'm not sure what it's going to be for this year. So it's going to be important that you go and check the website for Oregon Promise. So I have that at the bottom. OregonStudentAid.gov is the website that you would go to check on any kind of changing requirements to that. And then the OSAC scholarship, I think that was also included in your checklist I saw as well. So that is, those are scholarships that are offered through the state of Oregon. There's one common application that gives students access to over 600 different scholarships. And, so there's a lot of money, scholarship money out there, but you have to do that. You have to complete the application in order to be considered for any of the scholarships. So my recommendation is for, to apply for as many scholarships and grants and any opportunities out there so that you can, get as much money to pay for college and that are not loans that you will have to pay back. Because again, scholarships and grants is money that you don't have to pay back. So the OSAC is a great way to access scholarships. The awards range anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 per year. The deadline to apply for the scholarships is March 1st, and it's actually the same website as for Oregon Promise. So when you go to apply for Oregon Promise, you can apply for Oregon Promise and you can apply for the scholarships, all at once. And I think Oregon Promise, it takes like 15 minutes to complete that application. So it's really, it's really quick. And then another scholarship I wanted to share is, we mentioned the local scholarships so that you don't compete with, thousands and thousands of students. So, the OSAC scholarship is a state scholarships. And then we also have a PCC scholarship that's specific only for students that are coming to PCC. And other community colleges may have similar types of scholarships. So always check with the school that you're applying to on the scholarship, if there are any scholarship that's specific to that school. For PCC, we have one common application as well. We have over 230 different scholarships that we offer. The average award is about $1,500 per year per term, but that ends up covering about 1/3 of the tuition if you look at our tuition costs. The deadline for the PCC scholarship is March 1st. So same as the Oregon State scholarships. And the application is going to open December 1st. So coming up here in the next 2 weeks, go to the PCC website, the scholarship website, and you can find the information to apply for the PCC scholarships. And if anybody is interested in applying to PCC, here's our admissions website, or pcc.edu/admissions. It has the outline of all the different steps. If you would like to schedule an appointment or connect with anybody with kind of the next steps, we also have a virtual page set up. So here's the link to that, where you can actually schedule an individual appointment. And here's my contact information if you would like to get in touch with me, and I'm sure your counselors can share that as well. So my email address. And then as the last thing, I'm going to put a link in the chat box for you to fill out a form if you would like to get additional information. You can just give me your email address and then I'll be able to get in touch with you as well. Okay, so that is my part of the presentation. I hope I didn't take too long.
No, you're great. Thanks so much.
So much, yeah.
Pass it on to Brennan Rains and talking specifically about kind of a private university route.
Sorry, forgot my mic was muted there for a second. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen real quick. Okay, so just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about the private school and a little bit about George Fox. Just some tips to kind of keep in mind when you're looking at private universities and four-year universities overall. The biggest one is never count a school out based on the published cost. You won't know what kind of aid is available to you unless you apply to the school. The published cost might be a little bit higher, but the university has scholarships, grants, merit scholarships, that kind of thing. Is the school a good fit to you? So some things to keep in mind when you're looking at a school, especially a four-year university. Is the community right for you? Is the location what you're looking for? A big one is, will they help you graduate on time? So the biggest thing that can drive the cost up is not graduating in 4 years. So do a little bit of research into the school and look at how many students they graduate in 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. That's public knowledge. You'll be able to Google it and find that for that school you're looking for. When you're looking at financial aid packages, check the requirements on that aid that's offered. Things like GPA requirements, or credit hours taken. So if you apply at George Fox, you get a merit scholarship. The only requirement on that is that you are full-time. So, which for us is 12 credits. Most students don't have a problem being full-time. Another example is check if the award is a one-time award or all 4 years. Make sure that if that scholarship will carry the next 4 years. Our GFU aid that's offered to students, the merit, a need grant, that Scholarship Summit Award. Those will follow a student all 4 years. There are some requirements on them, like I said, but you want to make sure that the aid that's getting offered to you that first year will be there for the next couple of years. Which brings me to the next one. Don't just look at that first year when you're applying to a university. You want to plan ahead and start looking at all 4 years. Check average tuition increases for that university. George Fox, for example, 3%. So on average, our tuition increase is about 3%. A big one is engage with the campus, engage with us. Visit the campus, meet our admissions team, talk to your financial aid counselor. They're here to help you, and we want to make sure you're financially knowledgeable going forward. Check social media, check their website, engage with the campus. Right now, obviously, we're all virtual for the next couple weeks at George Fox, but we have virtual tours. Our admissions counselor will get on Zoom with you and walk you around campus. So engage with the campus. And lastly, scholarships don't end at admission. Check scholarship deadlines. It's a big one. A lot of students miss scholarship deadlines that are coming up. So make sure you know what deadline you have. For example, George Fox, we have some donor-funded freshman scholarships available to students. That application is open right now, and that closes March 15th. You can find that at our George Fox Financial Aid page under our Scholarship Resource Center. And then there's scholarships available each year. So just because you don't get a scholarship your freshman year doesn't mean you won't get a scholarship the next couple of years. Most schools have a donor-funded scholarships or something very similar to that. For George Fox, for example, we have over 200 scholarships that range from $500 to $15,000 once a student is actually enrolled and attending George Fox. So you just want to make sure, ask those questions. Hey, is there any scholarship opportunities once I'm actually at the university? And then see if there's any available when you're coming into the university. If you follow those kind of 6 things, you'll be in a really good place when looking at a 4-year university. And after I stop sharing my screen, I'll chat our contact us page to our financial aid team along with our admissions team.
Thank you, Brennan. That's helpful. And it's nice to know that both PCC and George Fox, actually probably any school that you go to, have whole teams of people that are experts and ready and willing to make it work for you. So it's good to have an advocate. We'll pass it on to Ben Shannon, who has some stories and some tips. Take it away, Ben.
Thank you, Josh. So kind of as Brennan alluded to at the end of his part of the presentation, scholarships is a really important and really strategic part of getting ready to attend a community college or 4-year university, private university, any post-secondary education. Scholarships is going to be an important part of the piece for you. And as Josh mentioned earlier, it's really strategic to start with local scholarships, right? Things that you are confident that you could get, and then branch out from there and move from local to state and state to national scholarships. And so on our document that we've shared with you all, our post-secondary planning document, there's a section for local scholarships that Newburgh High School has put together and shared with us. And on there, you'll find the Newburgh Rotary scholarships, and those are a great place to start. Newburgh Rotary has done a lot of great things for our community and is eager to help you and your kids be successful in going to college. And so they have some funds that they're eager to share with you. OSAC and COSA and these other groups are also eager and willing to share with our communities here in Oregon. And so start with those local and state scholarships and then branch out from there to the national ones and kind of treat it like a part-time job. If you set aside a couple hours each week to be researching scholarships and applying for them and working on essays, you'd be surprised at how much money you can slowly but surely get together to help support your college fund. And I actually have a friend here at George Fox University who, over the summer before his freshman year, made it his full-time job to apply for scholarships that summer. And almost his first entire year was paid for completely by scholarships, because every day, a couple hours, 4 or 5 hours a day, he was on the computer working, writing essays and applying for scholarships. And it worked out well for him. It really did. And so take a few hours each week and set aside some time to be researching scholarships locally, statewide, nationally even, because you can't win what you don't apply for. The other thing I would say is don't discount scholarships with a smaller award total. Oftentimes the smaller scholarships for a couple $100, $300, $500, $800 have fewer applicants because there's not as much money involved. And what that means is your chances of winning those are greater. And those add up quickly. If you apply to $500 scholarships, well, you got $2,500 at your expense, and you may have a greater chance of winning those. I would also say with scholarships, as with anything in life, you get out what you put into it. And I know it can be cumbersome and difficult and frustrating to spend hours writing essays for scholarships, but think about it like a job. If you're applying for a $500 scholarship, and even if you spent 10 hours working on your essay for that scholarship, which I'm sure you won't, that's still $50 an hour that you're making for sitting at the computer and writing that essay. And that's pretty darn good if you ask me. And there's a good chance you work for 3 hours on an essay and you make $1,000. And I've never worked a job that pays that much. So I would just encourage you to reframe it and think about it that way as, this is hard work. It's frustrating. It can be cumbersome, but I'm getting paid a lot of money for this. And if I play my cards right and I'm strategic and I work hard, you can really make a lot. So start local, branch out that way, treat it like a part-time job. And you can really be strategic and set yourself up for success with scholarships. And ultimately, you want to set yourself apart when you're applying for these, right? And tell your story in a way that communicates to whoever is judging the applicants, hey, I'm someone who's worth investing in, right? I'm someone who is passionate about XYZ, play into your strengths. And if you win a scholarship, maybe send them a thank you letter and say, hey, thank you for the $500 XYZ scholarship. This is going to allow me to pursue my dream of, being a botanist. I don't know. Do people do that? I don't know. And so, set yourself apart and you'll really be put in a good position to be strategic financially with scholarships. So that's kind of my piece. That's my advice.
Cool. Thank you, Ben. Sandy or Christy, do you guys have any last words of wisdom before we head to the Q&A?
Yeah, just a couple of things that I noted down, thinking from the point of view of families who, if this is their first student going to college and they haven't been to college for a while, a couple of reminders. First of all, that your FAFSA application is required every year. It's not just before freshman year. So every year when you're getting ready to think about, hey, it's freshman year of college and I'm 3 months in and oh my gosh, it's time to do FAFSA for next year already. So don't let that slip away. And then also thinking about from the point of view of, I'm sure Christy would agree with this as well. As a staff member, a lot of times we have students come in and say, I'm applying for scholarships. Can I ask you for a letter of recommendation? And, a lot of times it's like, hey, this is a great student. It's easy to write a letter. But then the student says, and I need it by 5 o'clock today. That's not so easy to do when you have a few hundred students. So just as you're looking at scholarship applications, if they require letters of recommendation, any counselor, administrator, teacher that you're going to ask, or pastor, or scout leader, whoever it is, always try to give them 2 weeks notice so they can write you a really good letter. It's not rushed and it'll be good quality and say all of the positive attributes you have and the reasons you deserve the scholarship. Because I can write a rushed letter, but it's going to sound like a form letter. I'd rather write a genuine letter. And I'm sure Christy would agree with that. And then the last thing I would say is you will get tons of solicitations for things when you're getting ready for college, and never, ever, ever, ever pay to apply for a scholarship or any, you know, if they want to give you money to go to school, they're not going to ask you for money to give you money. So just beware, because there are, if you ever have a question about a site, whether it's legit or scammy, contact Christy or the financial aid office from the college you're going to go to. So those are the three things that kind of came to my mind. So thanks for our panelists for everything you shared. Christy, anything else?
I think you guys all covered like very essential stuff. Yeah. I guess the one thing is it all can feel very overwhelming. You're like college application deadlines and financial aid deadlines and SATs, ACTs. Thankfully, those probably are off your plate this year. So, as well as your senior projects. So you guys are actually sitting pretty thanks to COVID. But just, use it. Just make sure to stay organized. That's like a key thing. Find out at the very beginning, find out all the deadlines, like when's the application deadline for my college? When's the financial aid deadline for my college? Are there any other scholarships that either my college offers or local or state colleges or state scholarships that I definitely want to apply for? What are those deadlines? Write them all down in a calendar or planner or in your phone, whatever is your way of organizing things. Just get it all in there very clearly, and then try and do one thing a day. So you're trying to like eat an elephant here, and you just got to take one bite per day, one little piece of forward motion. Stay organized and just take one little step per day, and you can get there. That's how I keep myself from feeling overwhelmed when I have like a big thing coming up. Just making lists and checking off a little bit at a time. So that's my recommendation, because it is a big thing you're working toward. And so, yeah, just stay organized, get those on the calendar. That's it for me. Looks
Magdalena,
like
I think there's one question. Is there a vegan option for those who aren't interested in eating elephants? Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
Really big cabbage, maybe.
Okay, Magdalena, I'm sorry.
So I just wanted to just quickly add, because I was just kind of thinking, I'm not sure if I mentioned that for the Oregon Promise, when you apply for Oregon Promise, you do that application, by the deadline of June 1st, if you're graduating in, in June, that will covers the average tuition cost of a community college in Oregon, and it applies to any community colleges in Oregon, not just PCC, just so and so the average cost of a community college in Oregon, out of the 17 community colleges that are in Oregon, PCC tuition is a little bit above that average, but depending where you go, that will pay for either all of the tuition cost, or maybe there will be a little portion left that you might have to pay. But like at PCC, for example, it pays for over 90% of your tuition, and that's for the period of 2 years. And you don't have to apply again, you don't have to like apply every year like you do with FAFSA. Like when you apply for Oregon Promise for that year, it will be for the 2 years or 90 credits that it takes to earn an associate's degree. So I just wanted to mention that.
Great.
Can I add one more thing?
Yeah.
I just remembered. So with your FAFSA, I encourage you to file your FAFSA as early as possible. It opens up October 1st every single year. Some federal and state aid is limited, and they go based off when you file that FAFSA. So the earlier you file the FAFSA, the better.
Very good. I wanted to share in answer to one of the questions in the Q&A, and feel free to keep adding questions to that. That's the only way we know what you're thinking or wondering about. So this is the spreadsheet for local NHS scholarships. And you can, one of the questions is when are scholarships awarded? So this doesn't really answer that question, but I wanted you to notice that some of the scholarships locally, the deadline is what, tomorrow, right? The 15th, or is that today? No, that was yesterday. So the first scholarship is, you've already missed the deadline, except for, I saw one person on here who I filled out a school counselor application for. So I know you made it, you made the deadline. And then those go all the way through December, January, February, lots of them in the spring. And I think most of the scholarships are awarded in the late spring. So Newburgh High School has a big event where most of the award scholarships are awarded sort of publicly, or pre-COVID they did, and that's usually in May. So you can anticipate that you probably know by the beginning of the summer in most cases.
Yeah, and with like the Oregon State scholarships, with the deadline being March 1st, and for some others, then yeah, spring is usually the time that I think for a lot of these scholarships. Yeah, and I wanted to answer the first question too, because I saw it had to do with
Yeah,
Oregon
great. Thank you.
Promise. I just opened
So
that window.
The question is, for the Oregon Promise, would waiting to start until winter term be too late? I believe it's just over 6 months.
Yeah, so it would be too late. So if students are looking to start, it has to be within the 6 months. So they're very particular on that. So it would be the start, it would have to be the September fall term.
Okay, thank you. Well, there was only 2 questions on there.
There's another question in the chat there.
Oh, there is. Okay, great.
Yeah, it says, what's the parents' earning threshold in order to be eligible for the Oregon Promise Grant?
So, so the EFC, so there's not like a specific like number that I can give you. So when you do your FAFSA, there's the estimated family contribution, which is not necessarily how much money we paying for college, but that's calculated like how much you might be contributing. And so if you go to the Oregon Promise website, so let me see if I can share.
No, that's really tall, big marker for dark solar.
Oh, it is?
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
And it couldn't walk, so it just down.
I'm sorry, I thought I was muted.
You're fine. Yes, so you'll see, can you see my screen that I'm sharing? Yeah, so this is the website that you would need to check. So for the the EFC limit was 22,000 that was set and was last year. So we're not sure if there's going to be any limitation for that this year. So that's something that you would have to come back and check on the Oregon Promise website. So we just don't know yet.
Looks like there's a new question. The question is, if the student gets the Oregon Promise, would they lose their financial aid if they take a term off at some point?
So once the students are, I know that the students have to maintain certain GPA in order to continue to be eligible for Oregon Promise. Now, losing financial aid, or do you mean losing Oregon Promise, or like your federal financial aid?
I'm guessing.
I might have to double check.
Oregon Promise.
Like losing Oregon Promise. So I might have to get back to you on that. As far as I know, like once the students begin, they have to be enrolled for a certain number of credits in order to maintain eligibility for Oregon Promise. But I can double check on that for you and maybe get back to one of you on that. Or who asked that question, if you want to. I'll check my email address in here again in the chat room, so maybe you can save that if you, or you can fill out that form that I mentioned, and I can also respond to that there.
Okay. Well, we won't belabor this if all questions are answered. I'll check one last time the chat in the Q&A. Christy and I are always available if, and Sandy too, if questions come up, if we can be a helpful resource for you, or at least advocate to get the information that you need. I want to send a special thank you to Magdalena and Brennan for taking your time to be with us tonight. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And thanks for those of you who attended. I hope this was informative and helps you pursue your career path. All right, thank you, and everyone have a great night.